I'm going to talk about back in time a little bit this morning.
Go ahead, Brother.
Uh, you just look here, what a beautiful church we have to worship in. Look
Yes.
where we came from, people.
Come on.
If it wasn't for this man and this lady here following God's will, we'd still be stuck down there in that little church. I really believe it.
Come on.
The devil, he really fought us. I mean, over the years,
Yeah.
I mean, there's not one in here
Come on.
that's not had problems.
That's right.
I mean,
Go ahead, Brother.
everybody here has had problems over the years. But see, we've overtook it. Jesus Christ, if we look to him instead of looking for ourselves,
Yes.
you know. And that's the reason we've got this beautiful church today. Is that Mary Jane and Doug, they listened to God.
Thank you, God.
If they hadn't, when the roof fell in down there, if they hadn't listened to God, who knows where they'd be today? They don't really know. If they hadn't listened to God, they don't know where they'd be today, really. But it's been, I don't know, I started going to church now, I guess, about I was 95 and 96, something in there. I don't remember exactly when it was, but I remember when Terry was going to start teach Sunday school. She said, I don't know whether I can get up in front of people and talk or not.
Sure did.
God turned that around, didn't he? I mean, that's a fact. I mean, I remember all the way back. And I wasn't, Brother Danny Moxley, he's the one that got me coming to church here when I first started. We got to be good friends, now. And then most people ever know the tragedy that happened there, with Danny.
Yeah.
And, but Brother Doug, Mary Jane had nobody to help her in the music. Brother Doug, he done it all. He taught Sunday school. And Mary Jane taught Sunday school. And they done it all. They had nobody to help them.
Right.
And
Thank you, Jesus.
then in 99, me and my wife, we joined the church in November 1999. That's been a day or two ago, you know that.
Yes, yes, it has.
But,
Yes, it has.
and Doug came to me and Robert one Sunday and wanted to know if we'd be elders because he had no elders. He had nothing, nobody to help him. They were doing it all.
Right.
And we told him we'd pray about it. And that's one thing I really uphold Robert for too.
Amen.
Anything comes up, we're going to pray about it. I mean, that's just the way we are. And so we decided to be elders. And then Brother Austin, he was the next elder that came into the light. And we loved them awful good too, Austin and Sonia.
Amen.
And but it just, if you listen to God in all things, I mean, that's what it's all about, listening to God. I mean, if we do something on our own, we're going to mess up.
Yes.
I mean, absolutely.
Amen.
The best I can remember now, when you get older, you can't remember good, but I think it was Robert as the elder, me as the elder, Austin as the elder, and then, I believe Donald and Brim came in there, and then Brother Mark, and I think RJ, and then Brother Gary. I believe that's the way it was. I mean, that's the best I can remember. But, by listening to God and stuff, that's what brought our church together, the people. I mean, the people loved each other. And then Doug came to me and wanted me to help Terry teach us a little bit Sunday school. And I told him I'd pray about it. I mean, I don't make no decisions without praying about it.
That's right.
Because if you do, you mess up. And like I say, that's been a long time ago. But, and just like now then, most times, look how much help Mary Jane got now, which she don't need no help. She never did need no help. But look at the help she's got now.
Praise God.
I mean, it came from, well, I believe it best I remember Brother George and Elsie, we got talking one day, and I couldn't play a bass then, and I can't play it now. But I can just make the noise. But I told him if he bring the guitar up, I'd try to play the bass. And that's where it started that many years ago. But you just look at the music we've got. I mean, we've got the best music. It's a blessing. We've got the best music.
Brother Larry, I remember those Sundays that Mary Jane had to work, and we had no music.
Uh-huh.
It was so hard to try to leave. I can't sing anyway, but the music covers it up. We didn't have any music. And I mean, I look back, and it's a miracle how far we have come. And it wasn't us, it was God. It's the right people.
That's
At the
right.
time. All my heart, I believe that Sister
Glory.
Brother Austin and Sister Sandra was sent to help us build this church. Because
Oh,
she knew
yeah.
how the permit thing worked, and he was real smart in design, and you were sent. I mean, everybody was sent here for a reason.
Amen.
That's right. I think so. I'll never forget the first day at Austin, Sonia came to church down there, the old church. Doug wasn't going to be there, him and Mary Jane that day, and Brother Raleigh was going to preach. And Danny Moxley got up, and Brother Raleigh wasn't there. So Austin and Sonia came and sat down, and Danny got to talking a little bit, and he says, come on, brother, and take your liberty. Austin turned red faced, and he said, not me, brother. He said, we just visiting. But he thought that was Austin was going to preach, because Raleigh did. He showed up. I'll never forget that. You don't forget stuff like that, people. I mean, you just don't forget stuff like that. But they was a good, big help in our church, Then we're going to build a picnic shelter, And got talking about that. Norma said, hey, I believe we need to build a church instead of a picnic table, because our church was filling up. And it got so down there, if a family came together, a lot of times there wasn't enough room and small benches off, for the family to sit together. So Norma brought that light, instead of saying a picnic shelter, we need to build a church. Then we got to praying about that. And then when we did decide to build a church, Brother Doug and Robert, me and Austin, we were thinking on the line at one time of all of us assigned a note, to help build this church. And then when we talked about it, we decided if God wanted to build this church, that He'd supply our needs.
Glory.
Did He supply our needs?
Amen.
Yes, he did.
I mean, from the word to go. I mean, money came in from people that didn't even go to church here.
Amen.
Money came in from people actually we didn't even know. And I'll never forget Bryson. We started setting them trusses that Saturday. He'd tie that rope. And stuff like that, it sticks in your mind. I mean, him and RJ would use the rope, as I swung the thing around, set the truss, they'd always tie it rope. And a lot of people, actually didn't work building the church, but they did work. That's Brother Bill Houck. And Sister Lois, they always made sure, everybody had something to eat, something to drink. I mean, that was part of building the church too. I mean, everybody can't do the same job. I mean, but as our church grew, I mean, it had to be God's hand, because look,
What it was.
the day that we moved into this church, it was paid for, people. I mean, we're a bunch of poor people, but we're rich in God, but we're poor people. But that money didn't come, $100,000 didn't come from nowhere. It had to come from somebody. And after we got the church built, it began to grow, and it grew and grew. We've had a lot of people come here. Now, I ain't throwing off nobody, and said they loved this church.
Come on.
And they get up and testify they love this church before they're at today.
Come on.
I hope in church somewhere.
Amen.
I mean, it doesn't matter whether this church, if it's a God-sent church, Holy Ghost-filled church.
Amen.
It don't matter where you go to church, but we've had so many, and we've had so many since I started coming here in the 90s, has gone on to heaven.
Yeah.
They're waiting on us. I mean, there are 20, 25 people probably, went on to be with Jesus Christ, since we started here, And then, we've had people come, we've had people go, Austin and Tanya, they went back to Tennessee, and we missed them. I mean, you can't help but miss people like that. And then we've had different people come and leave. Darlene David Smith, I love those two people, they're great people, and I really miss them. Ever since they've left, I miss them. But you really think about it, when one leaves, God will send somebody else
Send somebody like
every time to fill in. I mean,
every time.
David and Darlene left, and then Brother Tony
That's right.
and Mary Ann started coming, and then what's his name, the other one?
Eddie.
Eddie and his wife Cindy, yeah. See, they started coming. Back when I stayed out of church when that COVID first hit, we stayed out a while. We didn't come on account of that, but then when I come back, there was Eddie and Cindy, there was Tony and Mary Ann. But when somebody leaves, God will send somebody else along the way. And a lot of people in this church, they do a lot for the church people don't even know about, and they're not in the spotlight. Like those two right back here in the back. I mean, Mark and Alicia, they've been a great help to this church, and people don't even realize what they do for this church. I mean, we say, well, it's done, but we don't think about who done it.
That's right.
And that's a big part of stuff like that,
Yes, it is, brother.
And that's just like Sister Lois back there. She has done a lot
Yes, she is.
for this church and people. She has done a lot for people. I mean, I'll tell you what, over the years. And but God's gonna reward them. I mean, that's for sure.
Yes, I believe.
But by Doug and Mary Jane listening to God, I mean, look where it brought us. I mean, they've been rewarded with a new church, and they've been rewarded with a family, a large family, a loving family. I mean, that's one thing they have been rewarded with. And we have been rewarded with great people like Doug and Mary Jane. Where could you find anybody any better? You couldn't. I mean, you could not. But God sent us a lot of good people, from different places. They, sent David Bumgarner from Florida, Brother Curtis, he is from Florida, and Sister Lisa, she's from California. And, she was part of what got to being on TV and the internet. Lisa was the head of that. And then Brother Willard Moxley started coming, and David and Juanita started coming to church here. But I'll tell you what, like I said, I'm not giving them two people back there in the back glory. I'm giving God the glory for them. Because like I say, people don't realize what those two do. Mark and Alicia, you just don't realize what they do. But a lot of them has gone on to heaven, and they're waiting on the people. All we gotta do is hold on. And, a lot of times, you think you want to mourn and grieve over people dying and going to heaven. But, if they're ready to go to heaven, we don't need to mourn and grieve for them. They're in a better place. I mean, I like that old song that Jerry Childers sings, "Don't worry about me." And that's right. That's right. When my time comes, don't worry about me, because I know where I'm going, people. I mean, the devil will fight you. He'll try to get the best of you, but you know, as long as we resist the devil and rebuke him, he gonna flee. I mean, the devil can't stand it when you start praising God and all, but now he'll get on you. I'm sure there's not a one in here the devil don't fight. I mean, absolutely, there's not a one in here the devil don't fight. And he's gonna fight to it, till either the rapture comes or we die and go by the grave. He's gonna fight us. But you know, we're the winners. I mean, it's not. But you know, it's been, like I say, it's been a long time. There's a lot of stuff that you can't remember. I mean, you know, and I just remembered all this out of my head. You know, what little I've talked about. But me and my wife, we went to a lot of churches before we started here, and we went to some good churches. I mean, we really did. I mean, but we never felt at home till we started going to church here. And then that's when we started feeling at home. I remember Brother Robert, when he first come back, he'd been saved, and then he stepped out of the wheel, I think, a little bit, and rededicated his life. That's been a long time ago. Him and Barbara came back, that's right. I mean, but some things you people, you just remember. But the main thing about it all is that we need to remember who brought us here. We need to remember who's going to take care of us till we leave here, people. I mean, you know, and the only way is to Jesus Christ. That's the only thing we've got to look forward to. We don't want to look this world, I'll tell you that. We don't want to look to our government either.
No, sir.
Because, you know,
No, sir.
without Jesus Christ, we couldn't make it. I mean,
No way. No way. No way.
well, I guess that's about all I wanted to talk about. I mean,
You say praise the Lord, church.